about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So many Americans are frustrated by the shutdown going into week 3. And one thing that Senator John Thune wanted to introduce to the Senate, and then later through Johnson, through the House, is to pay our federal workers and troops that are working during the shutdown and who are working for free, not getting paychecks, where there could be a funding measure while the Democrats refuse to sign the continuing resolution, which they signed before, wanting to use this as an opportunity to negotiate other things that have to do with Obamacare and coverage for those who are illegal migrants and help Obamacare subsidies and all the other things that they were frustrated about as it pertained to the big, beautiful bill. We have individuals that are still trying to man their posts. And I know that we aren't using that term as much, but I think women can man a post also. OK, we're not using it as male versus female. We're manning posts at our TSA, at our border wall, for national security. And for those individuals who are still working and not getting paychecks, who are living paycheck to paycheck, give them their funds. And from what we're understanding, the Democrats are no. And I don't understand why they think this is going to help them in terms of the midterms. Schumer keeps calling this the Trump shutdown. Well, the Trump is trying to get the CR signed. I mean, if he could sign it, he'd sign it. All the Republicans are signing it. But Schumer wants to blame Trump for not coming to the table and starting to negotiate things from the big, beautiful bill. The big, beautiful bill has nothing to do with the shutdown and the continuing resolution. But Democrats who feel like they have really lost in the last election, where they don't have control of the Senate, the House, the executive branch, are trying to stall Trump's work and try to prolong the chaos until the midterms. Now, obviously, the shutdown's not going to go on till the midterms. But for every day they believe that they're able to shut the government down, they think it's a success. And even Schumer had admitted, the longer this goes, the better it is for us. And again, the question we keep asking is, which us? I mean, this isn't supposed to be about Democrats versus Republicans. This is supposed to be about Americans. We have SNAP benefits that are now, at risk. Medicaid, Medicare payments. Now, doctors can't work for free. We do, but after a while, we can't. We got to pay our bills too. You can't tell your employees, you can't tell your malpractice insurance, you can't tell your landlord, sorry, there's a government shutdown, I can't pay you. They're going to say, we don't care about that. We're not part of that. You still owe. You still have to pay your bills. And so going into week 3. This is really getting ridiculous. Now, I know the media outlets are going back and forth between whether there was 5 million or 7 million people at the No Kings rallies. Okay, that's wonderful and good for. I love that we have peaceful protests, that we have, although there was some mayhem in Illinois by an ICE facility, but I love that we have the ability to protest peacefully. I think it's kind of actually counterintuitive and ironic that they're protesting No Kings, but they are able to have easy abilities to, air their grievances and to, have their First Amendment rights protected. But again, I'm not sure which king they're protesting. I mean, Trump was elected, so that's kind of confusing. But I wonder if the millions of people who are pretty ticked off about the shutdown needs to go out there as well. And we need to go out there and say, look, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, this is ridiculous. There's a continuing resolution. Sign the sucker. I mean, it's obvious what the Democrats are doing. And, the Republicans said, we will revisit Obamacare. We will revisit. Honestly, Republicans would love to revisit Obamacare and change it. And as I said earlier, maybe it's time for Trump care. If Obamacare is so flippin' flawed, which we predicted it would be in 2009, and we are continuing to see the flaws of this ridiculous law, with the exception of pre-existing conditions and physicals covered. Now, the rest of it was it was not well designed or choreographed and engineered. I think Republicans would love to revisit Obamacare, make it Trump care. But no, that's the Democrats are stalling, and it stinks because Americans are getting hurt. The whole purpose of government is to be there for their constituents. This is being there for their own political necks. Chuck Schumer is worried about his next election. Hakeem Jeffries. They think that and the longer this goes, the harder it is for them to look like they are, or have that, try to avoid the appearance of caving. But I really think the American people need to speak out and say, guys, this is ridiculous. Now, there are many individuals that do not work for the government. So they're like, hey, no big thing for me. Yeah, but you got the holidays coming up. In 4 weeks, we have Thanksgiving. How many of you want to travel for Thanksgiving? How many of you have friends and neighbors and colleagues and coworkers who need government benefits? How many of you want to feel the protection that our men and women in the military are giving us? And it is going to affect us. I know we make jokes about how furloughed employees get their money back. There's a meme where you see, furloughed employees, the contrast of a big, beautiful yacht, where they basically are getting paid leave, yet, self-employed workers are screwed and they're in like the Castaway boat with Tom Hanks. I mean, you see the jokes, but it's no joke. And I think the American people might have to go out and do a no kings, which a much better turnout. If really only 5 million or 7 million, that's not representative of our country. Need to come out and say this is wrong. Democrats do the job. If not, you're fired. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
Okay, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So I am really fascinated by this Louvre heist. It's a shame it happened. It's a real shame it happened. But the Louvre, I've been to Paris twice, and I have not been able to go into the Louvre because I get there and I try to get tickets a day or two in advance, and no. You had to get your tickets weeks or months in advance. There's just too many visitors these days. And so here I am. I'm at the Louvre. I'm looking at the pyramid. I'm pretending, to put my finger on the pyramid and taking photos like that, and I just can't go in. Sorry, we have no more tickets. So I've been fascinated by what's been in there. Apparently, one of the things on display are these priceless jewels from French royalty. And some of these jewels were, I believe, owned by the Napoleon family. Priceless pieces of work. I mean, priceless necklaces and crowns. And I guess a few individuals come in. This was on Sunday morning when the museum opened. Musée is museum in French. Musée de Louvre. And they take a truck, use a truck that has a ladder, go up to, I believe, the second floor, break into the window, go into the area. They shattered, actually, the window. And then they stole 8 pieces of priceless jewelry in front of other individuals that were just there, guests of the museum. And then they escaped on motorbikes. This is according to French Interior Minister Laurent Nunez on France Inter Radio. So the museum had to shutter their doors following the robbery, and I believe it remained closed October 21. And they're usually closed on Tuesdays, and they might be opening by our time tonight on Wednesday. And so a concern that everybody has is that these priceless jewels that they took are going to be immediately melted down. They would melt them down to take out the diamonds and the rubies and all the other aspects of it, use the melted or the smelted gold, and it would completely diminish its value, but also make it harder to trace. There's a specialized police unit, according to USA Today, known as the BRB. Not Airbnb, but BRB. They have dealt with other high-profile robberies. They are handling the investigation. And former police officer Pascal Scudlara, who served in the unit, told Reuters that investigators are going to analyze the video footage, telephone records, forensic evidence. But what's interesting is there was no CCTV, I believe, in that room where the diamonds were. And so the footage you're seeing is from one of the guests at the Louvre, one of the customers, one of the visitors, who somehow, I guess, deduced what was going on and started filming. So you see somebody in a vest, a large man, a little overweight, wearing a construction vest and a reflector vest. So they say teams are working 24/7, but the Louvre, I guess, welcomes millions of visitors. I think in 2024, that 8.7 million visitors. And they promise to strengthen the security measures. But this is something that you would see in Ocean's 11. And I would watch, I loved Ocean's 11, that series. And I'm watching Ocean's 11, and I'm like, come on, guys, really? Yeah, the museum, or like such as the Louvre or any of these, would really have that lack of security where you could go in there and steal. Come on. Well, apparently, yes. And the question keeps coming up. Do we just have too many visitors for something like the Louvre, the Vatican? I went to Vatican City years ago, and it was just a sight to see. The line to get into the Vatican was enormous. And tickets, again, you had to get in advance. There were front of the line passes, things like that. We didn't have time to prepare. So again, we couldn't go into the Vatican. We were in Vatican City and we got to be outside. But I'm looking at these visitors and I'm like, is the Vatican built for all these visitors? Same thing with the Louvre. Same thing with the Eiffel Tower. I'm up in the Eiffel Tower that I was able to get into or on. And you have hundreds of people on the platform. And then there's the higher platform and you have hundreds of people on that. And you're looking and you're saying to yourself, was it designed for this? Especially now that people are heavier. You know, what is this? Are we pushing these relics, these historic institutions to their max? And the thieves, they believe are going to. Apparently raw materials theft has been something that's been on the rise. So if the thieves are skilled, they're going to recut the larger gems, use those, sell them. This like the crown of the Empress Eugenie. You would think somebody would want to sell that, but if they do, they could get caught. Yet if somebody's selling a diamond, that's harder to find. They say there's not a lot of people that have these types of skills. But they used an angle grinder and smashed 2 display cases. Grabbed what they needed to and fled on motorbikes. The robbery only took about 6 to 7 minutes. They were unarmed. However, they did threaten the guards. We're being told that when they got up to the second story, they threatened the guards with angle grinders. And then 8 pieces were taken. Earrings, necklace, from a sapphire jewelry set owned by Queen Marie Amélie and Queen Hortense, the stepdaughter of Napoleon I. There was an emerald necklace and a pair of earrings from the Marie Louise set, a reliquary brooch, along with the tiara and brooch of Empress Eugenie, the wife of Napoleon III, were also taken. It's amazing we have artifacts such as this. But one thing that I have noticed, in the last 10, 20 years, and I hate to say it, is that, and I've been kind of open about it, but I feel guilty talking about it, is that it's there when you go to these places, the Roman Colosseum, the Pompeii, when you go to the Empire State Building, there's just too many people. The Grand Canyon. In fact, I live in Southern Nevada, and we have this great mountain, Mount Charleston. Mount Charleston is amazing because we get snow on the mountain. You could ski on the mountain, and it really allows you to cool off during, the summer or the fairly warm fall. But there's no place to park. There's no place to go. There's just too many people. Now, you would think, well, if I'm going out into nature, I could just do like they do in the commercials. Just park my car on the side of the road, grab my bike, grab my gear, and go on a hike. But no, if you've ever been to Zion National Park went from you just driving up to the trail and parking to now making a reservation, parking at another lot, and then being bussed in. And just for me, the idea of bussing in takes a little bit away, of the feeling of, I'm going to be out there, being with nature, because you got to wait for a bus and there's bathrooms there and it just really kind of takes away from that. I'm going to be out there with nature and hike the Narrows, etc. And so I'm glad we have individuals that are interested in these things. But trying to go to Disneyland, try to go to the Roman Colosseum, try to go to the Vatican, try to go to these places, it takes away the shall we say the special moment, the value. It takes away that memory because it's lines. The Mona Lisa. To see the Mona Lisa, I hear, is a multi-hour event. And I know everybody wants to take pictures, so you're waiting for them to take pictures. It's not like, okay, take a look at it, and walk away now because people want to take selfies. And I don't blame them. If you're waiting for hours to get in and you're paying that kind of money to see the Mona Lisa, And the Mona Lisa is only about the size of a piece of notebook paper, and it's kind of away from others, so people can't throw things at it or touch it. I get that you want your moment and you want to zoom in, and I understand that. But that's not how I always pictured going to a museum and enjoying something. And so if you are going to have millions upon millions of visitors, you better have the security and you better have the structure to make it a worthwhile experience. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We're back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one thing about this presidency and this administration, if you can characterize it as such, is they are reevaluating traditional guidance. And they are looking back at what we decided to do and where we as a country and from a health perspective decided to go or demonize, take a step back and go, does this need to be revisited? And one thing that I have been hearing about for years, and I remember this in the 90s, is I had one of my attendings, because I wanted to say, I needed low fat. I need low fat. It's like, why are you getting low fat? Low fat is going to just add extra sugar or extra additives. Just eat the actual food in its more natural form. It's healthier. And I'm like, well, I thought we're supposed to do away from fat. No fat. And I remember I was actually in Sparks doing one of my rotations, and there was a physician where his whole staff was on a diet, and they decided to just cut fats. And they were looking at their weight loss in terms of no fat. We're just going to eat foods that are carbohydrates and vegetables and meats, but we're going to cut all the fats in our diet. And I found out later that they didn't do as well as they thought they would, as opposed to cutting carbohydrates. And so one thing I noticed I was doing is when I was trying to avoid fat and just buying low fat this, low fat this, low fat this, I would be compensating with carbs. Compensated with sugars. Well, then in the early 2000s, we started to go, wait a second, you got to cut the carbs to lose weight. I mean, we kind of knew we had to cut the carbs, but we had such a shift in people going from fats to carbs that we had a much bigger campaign to say, you got to cut the sugar, you got to cut the carbs, you got to cut the high fructose corn syrup. And so we started to see individuals, rather than them eating, shall we say, slice of cheese, avocado, salad, a steak, they were going to these boxed foods, these frozen foods say low fat, and then low carb. And I've been saying for years on my show, you got to cut the meats, you got to cut the fats, you got to cut the carbs, but you have to eat food in their natural. Our bodies are designed for natural food. Our body needs fat, our body needs cholesterol, they just don't need too much. Cut your portions, trim the fat, peel the skin off, but be very careful with avoiding, a well-balanced natural diet to go to boxed food and processed food that claims they're low fat, low sugar. And now we have a situation where we have an addiction and a dependence on non-real food. And people are so scared to go and have a steak or have some chicken or have whatever because they think it has to be gleaned through and things picked out of it. And that process of picking things out of it may not be making us healthy. I cannot be convinced that a burger that tastes like a burger that's made of vegetables is completely healthy for you. What the hell is in it? What are all the preservatives to make a vegetable taste like ground beef? So RFK Jr. wants to go back and revisit how some saturated fats are not necessarily bad for you. Now, your saturated fats that are in butter, cheese, milk, red meat have been demonized for a long, long time. But if you notice, though, we don't tell parents to give their kids low-fat milk after they turn 1. We tell them to give them whole milk because these kids need the fats. You have your unsaturated fats, you have your olive oil, you have your fats and nuts, you have a variety of different things that nature gives us. And so when we say a balanced diet, we really mean balanced with everything that nature gives us, not what you get in a box, not what you get in the frozen food section. So current U.S. dietary guidelines, which are updated every 5 years according to News Nation, suggest that Americans limit saturated fats to 10% of their daily caloric intake. The American Heart Association advised keeping that intake under 6%. Now, they're not entirely wrong, because if you're eating fatty steaks, if you're eating cheese and steak, 3 times a day, that's going to clog your arteries. But if you're having a healthy breakfast, eggs, look at how eggs are starting to come back. In terms of, wait a second, eggs might be healthier than we think. Of course they are. Now, if you butter them up and grease them up with bacon grease and corned beef hash, yeah, now you're starting to make it a little less healthy. But if you're having a hard-boiled egg, that fills you up. And another thing we're having also is people are not feeling full. When you're eating refined carbs, you're hungry in an hour or two. But when you eat something that is making you feel full, that takes longer to digest, you're eating less. And so we do need to reevaluate. I don't want people, consuming high amounts of fat. No. But, which is healthier? A thin, lean steak or lean chicken breast, or, a low-fat frozen food entree. We really have to look at what are our bodies designed for. So why are people worried about saturated fats? Well, people are worried about saturated fats because of the bad cholesterol. We have our LDL and our HDL. LDL brings cholesterol. It's like a transport. Brings cholesterol from the liver to the tissues. Our tissues need LDL. In order for our body to function, it needs cholesterol. It needs cholesterol for a bunch of different processes. Cell synthesis, structuring, but like Amazon. Okay, if Amazon keeps dumping a bunch of boxes, you need then the sanitation department or Republic Services, where I live, to come in and take the boxes out. That's your HDL. Your HDL picks up what's not used and brings it back to the liver to get metabolized and broken down. And so if nobody's there to clean up all the boxes, it starts to clutter. And cluttering LDL clogs your arteries. This is why we keep saying you need good HDL. Now, some of us are born with it. Some of us need to try to improve our HDL with our diet or give our HDL less workload by decreasing our LDL. Now, RFK Jr., when he does make the guidelines, has to understand it's different strokes for different folks. For some people, they are going to have to limit their saturated fats, and I'm sure he's going to say, for those of you doctor supervised, your diet is going to change. But to demonize what is a natural food, I mean, I think a lot of us noticed that early on. If we have, broccoli, lean steak, or lean chicken that's skinned, grilled, non-fried, I feel so much more full than if I try to eat pasta. And true vegans and vegetarians know how to do it right, but every time I've tried to become vegetarian, I end up just eating more carbs and I gain weight. And so, for some of us, we cannot handle the meat. The meat's going to put us at risk for colon cancer, put us at risk for heart disease. But for others of us, it's going to shift us from the carbs and from some of the other bad processed foods, which is important. In fact, with people with diabetes, we don't want you to be eating sugary foods. We also don't want you eating a lot of red meat. But we want you to have a balanced diet. And for some people, they need that. Same thing with fish. Fish can be fatty, but it could also be filling. This will not, the new guidelines will not include processed foods. We're not talking about hot dogs and bacon. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive this stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So did you ever use that 8-ball to make a decision about your life? You're like, I can't make a decision, so I'm going to shake it and see what it says, and I'll make that decision. Or, I used to, try to figure out if a guy liked me. And, we would do the flower petals. He loves me not. He loves me not. And then if the flower didn't give me the answer I wanted, I would just get a new flower. I actually was trying to figure out if I was pregnant with a boy or girl. And I did I think there was this Chinese calendar. And, when you're early on in your pregnancy, it's hard to tell. But I can tell in the women I delivered, if they were going to have a boy or girl, sometimes based on the way their waist and buttocks were, usually with those carrying females. It's interesting. You could tell they're pregnant from behind, but with a boy, you can't tell they're pregnant from behind. It's interesting. I've been right about 99% of the time now in terms of being able to guess if somebody's having a boy or girl. I tell them, turn around, kind of look at your back, not your butt, but your back. And then it's interesting. Maybe it's because the estrogen. I just lost my ears. Hold on a second. So it's funny because we turn to, I'm sorry, still getting on my ears. We turn to non-realistic. So I used a video game. I was playing a video game, and depending on the results, am I having a boy or girl? And I kept saying I was having a boy, and then I ended up, I had stone. So it's funny that we'll go to these inanimate objects, or we'll go to these non-human things to try to predict the future or predict what we need or make life choices. And that type of behavior in our human psyche has always baffled me. Why would we do that? Now, is it because of our spirituality? I mean, we pray to God and we trust God, but God is real. What about these non-real elements? Well, apparently there's a woman in Michigan who decided to go to ChatGTP and throw herself on the mercy of ChatGTP to pick her lottery numbers. Well, it did a good job. It picked 4 out of the 5 plus the Powerball. And she ends up winning $100,000. So this was pretty impressive. She actually thought she only won $50,000, according to Google, because she's like, what is the prize if you win these numbers? And then when she goes into her Michigan lottery account, it said she won $100,000. Now, I don't know what she actually gets, after taxes, but she is going to use that money to pay for, to try to buy off the mortgage of her house. So she matched 4 white balls on a Powerball with the numbers 11, 23, 44, 61, 62 with Powerball 17. And she went to ChatGTP for these numbers. This isn't the first time somebody did this. Apparently there was a grandma in Virginia named Carrie Edwards. She also used Powerball. She also used ChatGTP to select her Powerball numbers. And she actually tripled her $50,000 winnings to $150,000. She donated it all to charity. Very, very cool. Oh, her Power Play took that $50,000 and tripled it. So that was really, really nice that she donated it to charity. But ChatGTP, picking your numbers. Now, of course, I went on to Google AI, and I said, what lottery numbers should I pick? And it is like, it's very hard to pick. It's random, and it didn't. But I haven't logged on to ChatGTP to do this. But, okay, wow. Now, the whole purpose of the lottery is for you to be picking numbers, or you could do the random quick pick. And it's by chance. If ChatGTP gives you an advantage, now everybody and their mother is going to be trying to use ChatGTP. I don't blame them. I mean, that's pretty. In fact, I want to go. They don't do the lottery in my state. Nevada somehow doesn't have the lottery, so I have to drive to California to get the tickets, and I usually don't. Because by the time you pay for gas, I never win the lottery. But this example, this is testament to how we are willing to invite ChatGTP into our home, into our decision making. People have used ChatGTP for their health. Patients will call up and say, I asked ChatGPT, what do I have? And they think, I have testicular cancer. And I'm like, oh, okay, why? What are your symptoms? Well, I'm having back pain. I'm having burning when I pee. I mean, testicular cancer could be in the differential, but, we got to check your kidney. We got to check for kidney function. We have to, and AI is going to get better. The answers are going to get better because we're finding a lot of things wrong with it. And I think they're going to with newer algorithms and corrections, because there are people that correct the AI. But I am blown away that people are trusting computers to do this. And something like this tells crowds and tells the population that AI might do a better job than you. Okay, if people are not winning the lottery until they use AI, and you start to see a higher population of people winning the lottery because they go to AI or ChatGTP, people are going to be trusting ChatGTP with other things. I mean, I look at the lottery as, you have a higher chance of getting struck by lightning than winning the lottery. But for other people, they look at that as a sign. Going, if ChatGPT is able to take the odds of something like a lottery and help you win, then what can it do for my health? What can it do for my relationship? What can it do for everything else? I typed in an email, and my email is asking if I want AI to write my email for me. I'm like, no, don't. I don't need grammatically correct. If I want to dangle my participle, I'm going to dangle my participle. I want it to be personalized. But no, people are preferring using AI to communicate with others. It's like that, was it Roxanne? What was that movie? It was based on an old story where somebody wanted to woo a woman, but he was really good at words, but he wasn't good at I guess looks or whatever. And so Steve Martin was in the movie, but it's from an old story. I mean, if somebody is writing me a poem or sending me a love letter, if I was in the dating world, how do I know it's not ChatGPT or AI? How do I know it's not coming from the heart? And if you're not practicing that, I had to write poetry in school. I went to 12 schools because my parents moved a lot. But I remember in most of those different schools, we had to write poems. And I actually got pretty good at expressing myself through poetry. I only liked the funny poetry and the poetry that rhymed. But I had a knack for it. Well, now if you're just using AI, you're not testing yourself. You're not pushing yourself to the limits. AI is making art. AI is making music. When do we start being creative? When do we go into the back of our brains and pull out those lottery numbers that we think could be the ones that'll win? I don't like how we, as a population, are surrendering to tech and surrendering to entities such as AI, thinking they're going to make our lives better when actually it's going to accelerate our extinction. When humans are not necessary, they're not going to have a role on this earth. Don't let a computer replace you. But with something like this, everybody and their mother is now going to want ChatGPT, and you're going to see people are going to be purchasing lottery tickets. After this story, people who usually don't play the lottery are going to be like, whoa, I could use $100,000. If all I have to do is ask ChatGPT and it's going to come up with the numbers, wow. Now, does ChatGPT know to not give the same numbers to everybody? If ChatGPT is getting the same question, what should my lottery numbers be for the Michigan Powerball? Is it going to spit out the exact same 6 numbers? And then is everybody going to, only win $2? It's going to be interesting to see. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.